Buonasera, buon pomeriggio a tutte e tutti. Cominciamo la terza.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will begin our third session after this morning's plenary sessions. My name is Nicoletta Dentico. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert, a technical expert of this sector, but for some time I've been dealing with health issues, health policies. With many of you here are people that I know because we've been speaking a lot about these subjects, not only of the pressure in our country, but the general health pressure in the world at the global level. So we would like to speak about the Italian situation, Article 32 of our Constitution, that states the right to health to the rest of the world. I'm very grateful to Vittorio and Agnoletto for having asked me to come here today. This is a topic that I've been very passionate about for the last 20 years, and I'm particularly happy to be in this international panel. You know very well that the G7 Health will take place here in Milan in a few hours, and we'll start from a very interesting fact, and that is to say that when speaking of privatization, the only person invited at GH Health is Bill Gates. Since he is the monopolist who for years now, since he stopped dealing with computers and he decided to use his philanthropic society to fund health and healthcare, and he's the biggest funder worldwide, he for some time has had a free entry or an open invitation to the sessions of governments when they deal with health issues. A G7, for example, is one of them. And this is the first rather provocatory element that I would like to mention, because Bill Gates answers to his own issues and actions, and by virtue of his financial power, he is able to actually mete out indications to the 7 most highly industrialized countries in the world, and he tells them what to do. And this is something that I would really like to point out. This morning, Gianni Tognoni closed his presentation saying that privatization is the big disease of health, not only in Italy, but at the global level. This is most certainly true. And now another provocation, after which I will give the floor to the panelists sitting here before me, which is, you have all most certainly heard about objectives of the Sustainable Development, these SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which will have to define government policies at the national and international levels from now to the year 3000. In the health care field, the remedy which is being suggested, and I think that it is quite true, is a recommendation that has been denominated universal health coverage. That is to say that all aspects of health will be covered. It sounds quite nice. We would all love to be totally universally covered. Unfortunately, however, that word coverage which has been negotiated for years and years at international level. The word that was used before was access. Coverage is a rather ambiguous and specious word because it actually has an underlying meaning, which is insurance. That is to say, insurance suggested at the universal level for all countries. In other words, there are many types of insurance coverages. There are social coverages. There are non-government associations that propose all sorts of social insurance, welfare forms of insurance. It's like inviting everybody around the table, a well-loaded table, only that you can tell some people that they can eat everything from hors d'oeuvre to coffee, while you can tell other guests, that they can only drink a small cup of coffee because they are either unemployed, they don't earn enough, or for other reasons they won't be able to have access to this enormous coverage guaranteed for all. And then one of these pathologies, these diseases, like cancer, for example, or if you're a woman who sells petrol in the streets of Dhaka, maybe nobody will give you any form of insurance. So these are some of the scenarios that are standing before us. In the name of this type of coverage, the insurance model is accepted as the topmost form of financial coverage of healthcare. We're talking about the globalization of a model which unfortunately is not doing too well because it cuts health into pieces, ravishing it and leading to total inequality. This is what I wanted to begin with. And I now give the floor, thanking the persons who are sitting here around my table. First of all, I would like to thank them because they come from so many different places. But first, let me begin with Yves Hellendorff and Jean Vignes. They will have a single presentation presented into a duet, as it were. Yves and Jean are two people who know the healthcare center inside out. And they are also organized for building the alternatives for the existing situation, bring change, the change that we so much need. Yves and Jean will speak in French. The translation will be made into Italian. For those of you who understand neither Italian nor English, in the folders of the foreign speakers, you will have a translation of their presentation. I will be very severe in keeping the time, and my train leaves at 5:45. We will then have to close, trying not to go too far beyond the schedule.
On entend souvent dire la santé n'a pas de prix, mais elle a un coût. Et culturellement, nous constatons que la valeur santé est de plus en plus envahie par une série de mots qui ne viennent pas du secteur, qui ne viennent pas de ce domaine, mais qui viennent du domaine du marché. Ainsi, on entend la notion de rentabilité, d'efficience, de sélection des risques, de rapport coût-bénéfice, de clients, de marché, de fournisseurs, de débouchés, de concurrents. Et à force de les entendre, ces mots ne nous choquent plus. Partout en Europe, la privatisation et la commercialisation de la santé se développent. Mais en fait, de nombreux mécanismes sont à l'œuvre. Certains sont spécifiques à l'un ou l'autre pays, d'autres, par contre, couvrent la plupart des pays européens et bien plus largement au niveau mondial. Nous, aujourd'hui, nous voulons nous centrer plus sur la réalité européenne, pas parce que le reste n'est pas intéressant, au contraire, mais parce que nous pensons qu'il y a un endroit où nous pouvons agir ensemble. Or, au sein même de l'Europe, nous avons des réalités extrêmement variées. Les pays du Nord, qui ont pu encore préserver un modèle de protection sociale relativement important et une situation économique qui leur permet plus ou moins de le préserver, des pays du Sud qui ont été largement mis sous pression au niveau budgétaire avec des dispositifs de protection sociale qui s'en trouvent largement affectés, et des pays d'Europe centrale ou de l'Est qui, globalement, restent en difficulté dans la construction d'une protection collective en associant les dispositifs collectifs au régime antérieur. Mais partout, au nord, au sud, à l'est, la commercialisation gagne du terrain. Jean Vignes, qui est secrétaire général du syndicat français Sud Santé Sociaux, va illustrer une série de ces mécanismes rencontrés en Europe à partir de l'exemple français. Ensuite, nous énumérerons brièvement, vu le temps qui nous est imparti, les conséquences de cette commercialisation sur la santé publique, et nous tenterons de répartir les responsabilités à la fois européennes, nationales ou régionales, suivant l'organisation des services de santé, et je vous propose de conclure avec une série de perspectives d'action. Jean.
Merci. Bonjour à toutes et tous. Sur le premier mécanisme, je vais vous parler, c'est une longue histoire, de la privatisation de l'intérieur de l'établissement public de santé à travers les procédés budgétaires. Cette histoire commence avec deux lois, en 1970 et en 1991, et ces deux lois vont progressivement mettre les établissements, les services de santé publique en concurrence. Les attributions budgétaires ne seront plus l'affaire d'efficience, de rendement, de contrat objectif moyen, comme l'a dit Yves, en instrumentalisant peu à peu l'autonomie des services, en les appelant des pôles, en charge de gérer eux-mêmes une partie des moyens qui leur seront alloués. Quelques années plus tard, avec la mise en œuvre du plan Hôpital 2007, on va en finir avec les budgets dits inflationnistes, budget global, qui était une dotation globale donnée aux établissements hospitaliers, pour leur substituer une tarification à l'activité. Sous couvert de modernisation, on verra alors se créer des départements d'informatique médicale dédiés essentiellement à la comptabilisation des actes. La maîtrise ne sera pas médicale, mais comptable en matière de santé. Cette tarification à l'activité va être l'arme de la convergence tarifaire entre le secteur hospitalier public et le secteur hospitalier privé lucratif, le secteur commercial. Ce financement à l'acte standardise artificiellement le coût des soins par pathologie et crée une inégalité de traitement entre le secteur public et le secteur commercial. Cette concurrence est faussée du fait que le service public a comme mission, contrairement au secteur commercial, la formation, la recherche, la prévention et l'éducation thérapeutique. Dans les mécanismes qui vont se mettre en place, on va avoir un appauvrissement des services publics, Tout d'abord, on va considérer l'appauvrissement humain et qualitatif. 65 à 70% des budgets hospitaliers sont dédiés aux dépenses en personnel. Donc ce sont les personnels eux-mêmes qui vont servir de variable d'ajustement à la pression économique qui va être mise sur les établissements. Pour ce faire, on va utiliser les nouvelles formes de management directement issues de l'industrie, notamment le benchmarking et le lean management. Le lean management, ou chasse au temps non productif, va introduire une vision tayloriste du soin, aggravée par la mise en œuvre de protocoles et mettre à mal la capacité des soignants à faire preuve d'intelligence, d'initiative face aux situations de soins. Les personnels vont être transformés en objets, en robots, on va dire. Le benchmarking, ou mise en concurrence, va se déployer à travers des entretiens annuels d'évaluation qui vont mettre en concurrence les soignants les uns par rapport aux autres dans des systèmes d'évaluation. Cela va finir par fragiliser les collectifs de travail par une individualisation à outrance, à opposer les personnels les uns aux autres. Et ces méthodes sont mortifères dans des métiers où le fondement de l'exercice est le travail d'équipe. Les effets conjugués de ces éléments conduiront à des situations de maltraitance et pousseront les professionnels vers la dépression, la fuite et parfois le suicide. Dans le plus grand établissement parisien, depuis le début de l'année, il y a eu 8 suicides professionnels. Il y a eu 5 suicides à l'hôpital de Toulouse l'an dernier, et avant-hier, il y a encore eu un suicide de médecin hospitalier à l'hôpital de Grenoble. On ne dénombre plus le nombre de suicides actuellement dans nos établissements. Autre mécanisme, la baisse de la qualité de prise en charge résultante va introduire une baisse de notoriété des établissements qui va être préjudiciable au service public. Effectivement, depuis 2 décennies, les journaux spécialisés vont sortir des indicateurs avec des classements d'établissements. Ces classements d'établissements seront généralement en faveur des établissements hospitaliers commerciaux du fait de la notoriété et du fait que les établissements publics qui acceptent tout le monde vont avoir des critères d'évaluation liés sur le nombre de décès, etc. Et ça va créer aussi des différences entre les différentes régions. Autre appauvrissement, l'autre c'est par la privatisation et l'externalisation de services. Dans les années 2000, sous couvert de resserrer l'établissement hospitalier autour de son cœur de métier, petit à petit, on va externaliser des fonctions dites support. Blanchisserie, jardin, etc., cuisine. Et tout d'abord, on va commencer par les mettre en pôle autonome, et au fur et à mesure des mises en place des pôles autonomes, ce sera plus facile à un moment donné de les sous-traiter par des compagnies extérieures privées. Sauf que, de même, c'est oublié très vite que l'environnement, la nourriture, la qualité de l'hospitalisation interviennent au moins, pas tout autant, mais au moins à 30% dans les processus de guérison et de récupération. Le soin n'est pas qu'un geste technique. De même, les activités techniques telles que la biologie clinique et la biologie feront l'objet d'une externalisation par regroupement d'activités et seront la plupart du temps transférées au secteur privé. Approvissement financier par la privatisation des emprunts et des investissements immobiliers, les PPP, comme on les appelle en français, en Grande-Bretagne. Les partenariats publics-privés consistent à contractualiser avec des entrepreneurs privés la concession et la gestion pour plusieurs décennies de la partie immobilière des établissements. Ça donnera un scandale majeur en France autour de la création d'un établissement au sud de l'île de France. Mais c'est une technique que déjà Thatcher avait testée à l'époque en Grande-Bretagne pour ne pas s'attaquer de front au NHS, mais commencer la privatisation du NHS par la privatisation de l'immobilier. À noter que ce qui a poussé à ce genre de technique, C'est à partir du traité de Maastricht, de la mise en œuvre du traité de Maastricht, le fait que les établissements publics hospitaliers ne peuvent plus emprunter aux banques centrales pour pouvoir se rénover et pour pouvoir faire les travaux d'adaptation et à un moment donné de modernisation, et qui sont obligés effectivement de passer par des emprunts bancaires. On aura aussi un gros scandale qui sera lié aux emprunts toxiques, avec des taux d'emprunt qui vont monter à 15, 18, 25% pour certains établissements. Appauvrissement, là je ne développerai pas parce qu'on l'a bien entendu ce matin, par la dérégulation du marché des médicaments et du matériel médical. Malgré le fait qu'on ait créé dans certains établissements des pôles d'achat du médicament, la loi du marché imposée par les laboratoires pharmaceutiques et les politiques de certains ministres font que ces dépenses sont en train d'exploser. Et l'autre phénomène, c'est sur les matériels médicaux, notamment dialyse, matériel lourd, avec des groupes internationaux comme Fresenius, qui est à l'allemand, qui avait commencé par les blocs de dialyse, etc., qui est en train de se tailler la part du lion sur le marché mondial. On trouvera aussi le transfert d'activités de services publics vers le privé commercial. On va voir apparaître des directeurs dans les établissements qui, pour certains, vont même être embauchés sous contrat, même plus sous statut de service public, et qui petit à petit vont fermer des activités qui vont être peu à peu transférées vers le secteur commercial. Pour l'exemple, on a une directrice dans les hôpitaux de Paris qui, après avoir fermé 800 lits de gériatrie, va devenir directrice du groupe Corian, qui est un des premiers groupes d'Europe en matière d'accueil des personnes âgées dépendantes. Donc on va trouver ça aussi, ça va se faire pour les cuisines, où il va y avoir des gens qui font partie des groupes comme Eurest, etc., qui vont peu à peu privatiser ces activités et qui se retrouveront en position de direction dans les groupes commerciaux. D'autres spécialités ont aussi transféré par le levier de la tarification à l'activité. Et aujourd'hui en France, il y a des cliniques commerciales sur certaines régions qui ont le monopole, opération de la cataracte, tout ce qui va être bien rémunéré par la tarification à l'activité est récupéré petit à petit par le secteur commercial. Je vais beaucoup plus vite. Alors la mise en place une autre concurrence faussée, c'est la mise en place de lits privés à l'intérieur de l'hôpital public, soi-disant pour fidéliser les médecins. On va ouvrir la capacité aux médecins d'avoir des lits privés dans l'hôpital, avec effectivement à leur service tous les personnels hospitaliers qui géreront leurs rendez-vous, etc. Mais l'autre fait pervers, c'est que quand vous téléphonez pour avoir un rendez-vous, si c'est dans le secteur public, c'est pour dans 5 semaines, plus, jusqu'à 8 semaines, jusqu'à 6 mois pour certaines spécialités. Par contre, si vous rentrez dans l'activité privée, c'est dans 15 jours. Quand vous avez un cancer du sein, vous ne cherchez pas à choisir. Alors, pour alerter, la même chose est en train de se passer dans le secteur social et médico-social, qui aujourd'hui est impacté par l'introduction sur le marché des Social Impact Bonds, qui sont nés en Grande-Bretagne, qui ont été développés aux États-Unis et qui arrivent aujourd'hui sur tout le marché du social et du médico-social, avec mise en concurrence d'anciennes associations qui géraient la protection de l'enfance, par exemple, les soins à domicile. On a une invasion du marché par un groupe qui s'appelle O2, par exemple, sur tous les soins à domicile. Donc pour conclure, on est sur la mise en œuvre d'une pratique qui a été théorisée par l'école de Chicago à la fin des années 30, au siècle dernier, par Friedman et von Hayek, qui préconisait, et ça on l'a vu se mettre en place en France, le transfert petit à petit de l'autorité du gouvernement et des ministères vers des agences. Ainsi, en France, on a créé la Haute Autorité de Santé, qui est une agence qui est parallèle au service ministériel, les agences régionales de santé, qui sont des préfectures sanitaires qui gèrent la globalité des financements et qui ont la même mise sur les restructurations. Et qu'en ce moment, on est sur une période de concentration-fusion. Et sur cette méthodologie-là, ce sont les ARS qui tranchent. Et en fait, les établissements supports qui héritent de l'activité vont faire le choix sur quelle activité sera développée sur tel et tel établissement. Il suffit maintenant d'introduire le secteur privé commercial dans le circuit et le tour est joué. À toi, Yves.
Et donc, il ne s'agit évidemment pas d'une vision exhaustive, c'est quelques exemples de mécanismes que nous avons repérés au sein du réseau européen de lutte contre la commercialisation de la santé et de la protection sociale et qui nous semblent vraiment être mis en œuvre non pas par hasard, mais dans une logique extrêmement bien organisée. Alors, les conséquences de ce mécanisme de privatisation et de commercialisation sont nombreuses. La première sur laquelle on a pu mettre le doigt, et vous en avez parlé ce matin largement, c'est la dégradation de l'accessibilité, avec des différences énormes entre les gens sur cette accessibilité. Une accessibilité qui se dégrade aussi bien au niveau géographique, à travers la concentration des activités, mais l'éloignement aussi par rapport au logement. Deuxième élément d'accessibilité limitée, c'est l'accessibilité financière avec un out of pocket de plus en plus grand. Vous avez vu les tableaux ce matin et leur évolution dans les différents pays, mais notamment en Italie, mais dans beaucoup d'autres pays aussi. L'accessibilité temporelle, notamment, on vient d'expliquer le report des rendez-vous, la durée, les listes d'attente, et on m'a dit qu'en Italie, ça avait explosé dernièrement. L'accessibilité culturelle, enfin, c'est les notions de formatage de la prestation de soins qui font que les soins ne sont plus capables de s'adapter à la réalité des différents publics. Deuxième grande conséquence que nous avons pu mettre en avant, c'est l'incapacité qui est amenée chez les politiques d'intégrer les politiques de santé. On se rend compte qu'à partir du moment où une part importante de l'activité est prise en main par le secteur privé, le pouvoir public n'a plus la maîtrise de son activité et de sa vision politique en matière de santé publique. Et on se rend bien compte, évidemment, de cet aspect-là en matière d'effet des déterminants sociaux de la santé et de toute la logique de prévention. C'est là le public qui doit intervenir, mais les bénéfices, eux, ils vont vers le privé. Troisième axe que nous avions pu mettre en avant, c'est la problématique de la responsabilisation des patients. Il s'agit pour nous d'une de ces conséquences de cette commercialisation. Faute de pouvoir mettre en cause le système, il appartient dorénavant aux bénéficiaires de prouver que les dépenses de santé qu'il génère ou que son état de santé génère ne lui sont pas imputables. Et donc, la sélection des prestations, la sélection des pathologies et des patients solvables contribue largement à déplacer la responsabilité vers le bénéficiaire. Nous avons aussi relevé que le bien-être global de la population diminue. L'exemple des États-Unis qui vous a été largement présenté ce matin est éclairant à ce sujet. Il n'y a pas de lien effectif entre les montants, la part du produit intérieur brut affecté aux soins de santé et l'état de la santé. Le modèle des États-Unis est un modèle qui ne fonctionne pas et qui appauvrit le bien-être de la population. La commercialisation va clairement de pair avec une détérioration de l'état de bien-être des populations. Mais étant des syndicalistes tous les deux du secteur des services et de santé, nous ne pouvions pas non plus ne pas mettre en avant le fait que les conditions de travail du personnel de santé se dégradent largement dans les services qui sont pris en compte par le secteur privé à but lucratif. Le personnel est devenu largement une variable d'adaptation en matière de coûts et de rentabilité. Alors, est-ce que l'Europe est en cause, oui ou non? Mais si vous vous adressez à l'Europe, l'Europe vous dit la santé, ça n'est pas dans nos compétences, c'est une compétence des États. Et si vous vous adressez aux États, ils vous disent c'est Bruxelles, 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 Bruxelles. Et donc, on est toujours relancé de l'un à l'autre dans un dispositif de ping-pong. Et qui a raison? Un peu les deux, puisqu'au niveau européen, formellement, la santé est plus prise en compte à travers les problématiques d'environnement, mais tout le monde sait que l'ensemble des mesures qui sont prises à travers des mécanismes tels que les convergences budgétaires ou encore les bulletins semestriels, donc le semestre européen qui est remis à chacun des États, ce sont des éléments qui font une pression énorme sur les États en matière d'investissement, en matière de protection sociale et de santé. Et donc, largement, l'Europe a quelque chose à dire sur la problématique de la santé et sur la commercialisation. Mais dire que les États ne peuvent plus prendre en compte les choses, c'est tout à fait faux. Les marges de manœuvre existent au niveau local. Vos politiques, vos responsables politiques ont quelque chose à voir et peuvent faire changer les choses, y compris dans ce qui sont les mécanismes que nous avons mis en avant tout à l'heure. Enfin, nous voyons bien que la tendance à aller développer des traités commerciaux multinationaux engendre un accroissement du risque important. Quand on dit qu'on va signer un contrat qui libéralise les investissements, quels sont les secteurs où les investissements ne sont pas encore libéralisés en Europe? Cherchez, à part la protection sociale, il n'y en a pas des masses. Donc, on est clairement dans cette volonté d'aller à un autre niveau, chercher l'excuse pour pouvoir mettre en œuvre une plus grande libéralisation, une plus grande commercialisation. Alors, est-ce qu'on peut faire quelque chose? Eh bien, oui. Nous pensons, nous, avec le réseau européen de lutte contre la commercialisation et la privatisation de la santé, qui regroupe une série d'organisations à la fois syndicales du secteur de la santé, mais aussi des mutuelles, aussi des universitaires, aussi une série d'ONG au niveau européen ou au niveau national. Nous pensons qu'il y a moyen de coordonner les choses parce que la santé est vraiment un thème qui peut mobiliser à la fois les bénéficiaires et les travailleurs du secteur. Et là, pour nous, il est vraiment important de coaliser ça et de coordonner. C'est pour ça, et on en a parlé tout à l'heure, que le 7 avril, depuis 2 ans, donc le 7 avril, c'est la journée mondiale de la santé, nous organisons une journée européenne de lutte contre la commercialisation de la santé et nous voulons, à travers cette plateforme, à travers ce réseau, à la fois mettre à disposition des outils d'analyse et de conscientisation. On vient d'expliquer l'importance de la communication, de l'enseignement, de la formation sur l'ensemble du dispositif. Nous voulons promouvoir et coordonner les initiatives locales ou nationales. Nous voulons aussi les intégrer dans un programme européen qui agisse à la fois sur les décideurs locaux, nationaux et européens. Nous pensons que sous cette forme, nous sommes capables de faire changer les choses. Et dès à présent, nous étions hier en réunion du réseau européen et nous avons donc lancé la journée d'avril 2018 avec 3 thèmes qui ont été identifiés comme prioritaires cette année. Le report des soins, c'est-à-dire les listes d'attente, le fait que les gens doivent de plus en plus attendre pour se faire soigner, les assurances privées et le complexe médico-industriel. Ces 3 thèmes, nous voulons en faire des fiches et un plan d'information, de sensibilisation, mais nous voulons surtout en faire un plan de mobilisation. Ensemble, ONG, syndicats politiques, académiques, nous pouvons, dans ce domaine bien plus que dans d'autres, faire valoir que notre modèle de protection sociale, basé sur un financement solidaire, sur des opérateurs publics non marchands, loin d'être plus cher, est à la fois plus performant et moins onéreux. Il crée en plus une société de l'insertion, de l'inclusion, qui permet à chacun de s'épanouir dans les limites qui sont les siennes, de participer à la création de biens communs en fonction de ses capacités contributives et d'en profiter en fonction de ses besoins. Merci.
Grazie. Merci à vous. Merci. Grazie. Grazie.
Thank you. Thanks to Yves Hellendorff, Jean de Vignes, one speaking for Belgium, the other one for France. They have outlined a situation which is very much like what's going on in Italy. I'd like very much the focus of their presentations. And Europe is the continent that was more forward-looking and in defining constitutional rights. These rights were were established when there was not a lot of money, when there were no resources for everybody. But at that time there was vision, there was political vision, extraordinary one. It is paradoxically, Mr. Cameron, in the name of open society, is destroying the healthcare model that was set up by Mr. Beveridge, when planes were bombing London, and London back then was laid in ruins. It is a paradox that we are taking the US system as a model, which is by far the most inefficient and the most expensive ones. So we, as Europe, we should fight a battle. If we are successful, the whole world will benefit. Of course, health is threatened. We need to mobilize people to raise awareness and to develop a strong political need for politics to get back this vision based on rights. So once again, thanks to our Belgian and French speakers, and I will give the floor now to someone who has lived in a very different, or lives in a very different context. So in Turkey, Turkey is experiencing a peculiar situation in the healthcare sector. Last year, in July, and I'm thinking of the World Health Organization. Turkey became a protagonist for supporting migrants, and a country that with which a dialogue could be established, also to put pressure on European countries, France, Great Britain, UK, Italy, and I'm very happy that Zeynep Varol is here today with us. Her name circulated around people's movements on the internet, so I'll give the floor to her, and she will tell us about the privatization of healthcare programs in Turkey, and also about what happened to activists in the aftermath of July 2015.
Thank you. First of all,
I'd like to say that I'm very grateful to finding chance to
Buongiorno. Transformation program in Turkey, and of course, it's not easy to tell every details about this program in 20 minutes, but I will do my best, and I will do my presentation actually on behalf of People's Health Movement Turkey. When we say privatization of healthcare, especially after the 1980s, it means commercialization of service area as profitable as possible. When we think about neoliberal policies all around the world, we can see different actors, different times, like in USA Nixon, and then in England Thatcher. But there are indispensable components of this privatization period, such as cut-off social spending, all making attractive health area for big companies. As Margaret Thatcher said, there is no such thing as society. There are individual men and women, and there are families in this world. If we take the health far from the society as an individual issue, it will be better to give all these health institutions, management of these health institutions to big private companies. It will be better for our health. And it creates a vicious circle, actually. More individual medical intervention, more hospitals, more treatment and medicine, and more individualism. This is the new trend of the world. What happened in Turkey? In the beginning of the Republic of Turkey, there was just preventive healthcare services in 1920s. I'm talking about it. And because of the limitation of the resources, and in 1960s, a law was enacted by the government, and with this law, health was the right of all citizens, which is under the responsibility of the government. And the preventive healthcare services and outpatient treatment services was integrated in this period. And after 1980, privatization of health services has been started. And when we talk about Turkey, it's better to split this period into steps. One is 1983 to 2003. There wasn't a name of the privatization in this period. And then after this, they give a name, Health Transformation Program, to this privatization process. If we have a look at the milestones of neoliberal health reforms in Turkey, in 1980 there was a coup, military coup, which was supported by imperialist powers in the world, and they settled these neoliberal policies by this coup, I can say this. And in 1982, the mentality changed. From state provides medical care to everyone to state plans and organize all the health institutions. And there was a deregulation process period. And in this process, various initiatives to support private sector has been occurred. When we say privatization, usually we see passive and active periods. In passive privatization period, they shift both healthcare professionals and public to private sector by rendering the public sector inoperable. And they limit the budget, the public budget, and they isolate public sector workers. For instance, there was community-based primary healthcare units which gave healthcare services to 20,000 people in an area. They couldn't find, in this period, they couldn't find even the money for gas for their car to go home visits in rural areas. And we have an expression in Turkish like convincing to malaria by showing that. In this deregulation process, they did this, and they started active privatization process after this. And with this program, there are three legs of this program. One is privatization of primary healthcare by private family doctors, and the other one is financing healthcare based on insurance system, which we call universal health insurance. And the last one is hospital autonomy. They call it like this. We call it hidden privatization of public hospitals. In the Ministry of Health's reports, you can see there are 8 aims of this transformation program, such as universal health insurance, gathering everyone under single umbrella, strengthening primary healthcare services and family medicine, health facilities having administrative and financial autonomy, or quality and accreditation for qualified and efficient health services, and institutional structuring in the rational management of medicine and supplies. And you can find all these aims in the World Bank's health reform strategy for Turkey, universal coverage, and developing a package of essential services and targeting public spending, reorganizing public hospitals and providing greater autonomy, consolidating and redefining institutional responsibilities, and strengthening delivery of primary care services. Who is the owner of the health transformation program? If you ask the health minister of health, they say that we have prepared this program by getting inspiration from our past experiences. But for the WHO, it's a program which is supported by World Bank. What happened after the implementation of health transformation program? Social Security institution was established in 2006, and social health insurance was introduced again in the same year. It was a premium insurance which is supported user fees and then just have a basic package. And Ministry of Labor and Social Security's hospitals were transferred to Ministry of Health in just one night. The day after the day, I remember this. It happened in a night, and Social Security institution began to buy healthcare services from public or private institutions, and complementary private insurance was established in the same year. And the Ministry of Health's administrative structure has changed in 2011 to make it more autonomic. And Ministry was withdrawn service delivery directly. Public hospitals institution of Turkey was established as a subsidiary of Ministry, and public hospitals managed by CEOs. This is the last organization of Ministry of Health. They divided all the integrated areas. And community-based public health centers were closed, and instead of them, they opened family health centers. It's a type of private outpatient clinic, and it's a personalist-based, not community-based. And if we have a look to assessment of the reforms in terms of social partners such as community, health, manpower, and global capital. For community assessment, I will not go to details, but over 15% of the population now out of this universal coverage, and then most of them are unregistered people, people who are vulnerable actually. Unemployed people. And as a result of this, now Turkey is the country that has emergency service admissions in a year more than its own population. In a year, almost 111 million admissions to emergency service occurred in Turkey. And user fees increased in years from 5% to 17%. The percentage of children receiving all basic vaccinations, it was 80% in 2008. Now, in 2013, it's 74%. And the change in financial structure of a public hospital have led to many changes in patient care. Hospitalization period has reduced to 3.9 days, and long-term care services began to be transferred out of hospitals. And many services in hospitals are bought externally from private companies now. There you can see the period has reduced. And Turkey is the under of OECD countries. And efficiency, they did all these reforms for more efficient healthcare services. And now Turkey is the, let me show, yeah. Thankfully we are better than United States, but under, of course, OECD countries. Bed occupancy rate is now 64.8. I can't see very well, but it should be like this. So, yeah. And neoliberal health reforms have changed the financial structure of public hospitals. General budget has gradually decreased, and then depending on this change, revolving fund has been a dominant financing tool in hospitals, and a large part of the income is derived from the revolving fund, and almost all of the expenditures are made from a revolving fund. And this revolving fund actually depends on the performance. And the criteria of performance are defined by the, again, World Bank. And the health transformation program has not provided a significant improvement in community health indicators. Today, Turkey is far behind the developed countries in public health indicators such as life expectancy, infant mortality rate, or unmet healthcare needs. And what about health manpower assessment? The number of the per capita visits increased because of the secret policies of the government. And outsourced employment is growing. Number of temporary workers increased in 10 years 10 times. And today, 1 out of every 4 people working in the Ministry of Health is working in our outsourcing companies. And the violence, about 2 years, 23,000 cases have been occurred, and almost 8,000 of them were physical violence. For global capital, purchasing of services in public system, increase in demand, monopolization and privatization, these are the 4 cornerstones of profit maximization. And as you can see, outsourcing, it's a trend in Turkey. And there is a problem, but okay, distribution of outsourced services in non-clinic sector, housekeeping, automation and security, and clinic sector, MRI, CT, and biochemistry laboratory services are the most common ones. And private hospitals double up increase. Number of equipments of inpatient treatment institutions, we can see incredible increasing, especially for MRI. As a result of this, Turkey is the first country for MRI exams. And more surgical operations to feed the revolving fund. Drug using double up in years. As a result, in the aftermath of these neoliberal health reforms, we have to answer this question: who gains, who loses? And for AKP, Development and Justice Party, nowadays they blame the Gülen's community because of all these reforms, the bad consequences of them. They said that this is the fault of the Gülen supporters which worked in Ministry of Health in the time, and then now they try to fix the system, but it's impossible. And to talk, if we talk about the current situation in Turkey, actually AKP got elected in November 2002, and they accelerated the neoliberal policies in health, education, agriculture, urbanization. And in the last 7-8 years, political Islam is raising, and obscurantism felt in every aspect of life. In 2015, in general election, AKP lost the majority. And after this, in order to cancel the election, the peace negotiations with Kurdish authorities have been cancelled, and then war started again in Turkey. Right to life violated in this process, and due to indefinite curfews, there was lack of water and food, water shortage, power cuts, and civilian deaths. In a year, we reported 222 civilian deaths during the war. And 1 million, almost 1.6 million persons affected in Kurdish area in Turkey between August 2015 and March 2016. Kids, women, and elderly people died. This is how a patient was going for hemodialysis during this process. And this is the entrance of a hospital. A group of academicians in Turkey, 1,128 academicians, has declared a petition which is known peace petitions, or we will not be party of this crime. And they said that stop human rights violations as possible as soon. And the result was witch hunt. Academics are targeted by the president, and they stigmatized as terrorists. And there was arrestings, 4 of the members of this petition. And then nowadays they are accusing academics making terrorist propaganda just because of this petition. And after this petition, there was a coup attempt in Turkey. It gave power to President of Turkey, and then more than 15 months, all the rights and freedoms are suspended in Turkey, with 28 executive orders, around 2,800 physicians, more than 10,000 health workers, and 96,000 public workers dismissed from their work, and more than 30,000 public workers suspended. As a result of this, of course, healthcare system affected. And what happened to Academics for Peace? Today, 460 of them dismissed in a way, with different ways. Also, I am one of them. We need solidarity for Turkey. Showing reaction against these gross human rights violations is important. And for Academics for Peace, the people who were dismissed by the government cannot travel usually. There are some expectations, but usually cannot travel, so that we need distance academic programs for junior Academics for Peace, and then distance conferences which will be given by senior Academics for Peace members, and collaborative international research studies in which Academics for Peace included as partners, or we cannot reach the databases because we were dismissed. We need to reach to international databases. These are just some of the solidarity lists I want to mention about this. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Zeynep, credo che questo applauso
Zeynep, I believe that this applause represents the solidarity that comes to you from this audience. I would definitely like to thank your coming here to witness so much humanity. And this shows us what happens in countries when reforms are actually experimented, when they're inspired to the World Bank. The south of the world knows very well what these recipes are and what happens when they are applied. In the south of the world, the same paradigms have been systematically replicated with disastrous effects. And it is quite paradoxical today that even in the south of the world, which was protected by constitutional rights, the same things are going on. So probably there is an unableness on our side to understand what the south of the world is telling us to do. That is to say that health has to have a political, cultural, and efficient structure of the healthcare system. In the privatization, where the welfare system has never even existed, simply means the desertification, the zeroing of building up something different. I now give the floor to Louise O'Reilly, Member of Parliament, and she's rapporteur for health policies for Sinn Féin. Louise O'Reilly's presence here is very important because for many times she has spoken not only for her country but for Europe as a whole. Before giving the floor to our Irish MP, I would like to inform you that Stefania Tones Martinez, the European Member of Parliament, has arrived here and she will speak at the end. Louise, the floor is yours.
And the GUE for organising this important conversation. I want to all of the speakers because I certainly I've learned a lot. I think if we have learned nothing else today, we can learn that poverty makes you sick, privatisation makes it worse, and the only cure is decent, publicly funded health services. Health is big, big business. This is a fact. It is becoming more so. It is as we learn to try to cope with an ageing population, we see private interests move into the public space more and more. Prior to being elected to the Irish Parliament, I worked as a full-time trade union organiser. I represented workers in the healthcare sector for over a decade. I represented workers at all grades: nurses, radiographers, home helps, porters, theatre assistants. Every person, bar doctors, within the health service came within my trade union. It was the largest, is the largest trade union in Ireland. I was also a member of the Public Services National Committee of the Irish Congress of Trade Unions, and we would have negotiated directly with government. On good days, we negotiated for pay increases. During the economic crash, we were left in the situation where we were negotiating pay cuts and cutbacks, and no trade union official ever wants to be there. In 2009, when the economic crash and the banking crisis hit very, very hard in Ireland, as I know it did elsewhere, the government moved very swiftly to impose a moratorium on recruitment. This halted all recruitment. And it was easy to do it because at the time there was a media storm of attacks on public servants and on their working conditions and their pension entitlements. Now, I've never made any apology for defending decent work, but in 2009, those of us who did so were absolutely vilified in the press. We were treated disgracefully. I opened the newspaper one morning and I saw a picture of myself with the words beside it, "This is the face of the woman who wants to shut down Ireland." Another headline, "Here are the people who want to cripple our country." So that's how we were portrayed. That's what people said about us. That was the climate that was created, and that was the climate we were operating in at that time. So it served the interest, clearly, that climate served the interest of the right-wing government. It suited them that civil servants, public servants, and the people that represented them would be vilified, would be attacked, and would be discredited, because then they could make us the scapegoats for the banking collapse, the scapegoats for the economic crash which visited our country, while those who were responsible could sit back. They shoved the responsibility and the burden of coping with the financial crisis onto the backs of the people who could bear it the least, and those who caused it and those who were well insulated because they were very rich, they got away scot-free. So, in effect, the government and the media created the climate that suits privatisation. So, firstly, they imposed the moratorium on recruitment. This happened in 2007, but it became entrenched in 2009. A blanket ban on recruitment, which in turn led to the cancellation of operations, the cancellation of appointments, the cancellation of treatment. And it led to the start of what we now call in Ireland the trolley crisis. So every day in Ireland, an average of 500 people wait overnight or for days to be admitted to hospital. So the doctor sees you in the emergency department, he or she tells you that you need to be admitted, and you wait. And you wait, and you wait for a bed. But you are on a corridor or in a bay, and you wait in an inappropriate location because you need a bed, but there are no beds. So we call that simply the trolley crisis. We've come to accept it now. 380 is a good day, 620 is a bad day, but it averages at around 500 people spend a day or more waiting to be admitted. Now, this is not unique to Ireland. I know that waiting in emergency departments is not unique, but waiting for days is unique within, I believe, within a European context. And it's not an accident. It is the direct result of government policy, and it creates the ideal climate for outsourcing and privatisation on a wholesale basis. So the moratorium was a very blunt instrument which was used, they said, to control the public sector pay bill. The government of the day decided that they would curb the recruitment in the health service first. They claimed that the pay bill was out of control and that there was what they referred to as a pensions time bomb. The truth, of course, was miles from this. Most workers in the health service earn very modest wages, and as a consequence can expect to receive very modest pensions when they retire. In 2007, moving into 2009, we didn't know how bad this was going to get. We thought that we were actually having an industrial relations dispute with the government as the employer. But looking back on it now, I see that we weren't. In fact, we were involved in an ideological war with those neoliberal forces who saw an opportunity in the economic situation that Ireland was facing at the time. We took the employer, of course, through the usual industrial relations channels, and at every turn they pleaded poverty. They moved in 2009 to cut pay twice, and all the while they were cheer-led by a willing media who chose to showcase the inefficiencies and the failings of the public health service, which we know were all caused by a lack of funding. They compared the long waits, the poor equipment, and the heavy reliance on paper files to the seeming efficiency of the private system, where no one has to wait, where all records are computerised. This was music to the ears of a population who had been drip-fed a diet of public sector bashing, and who had been bought over to the notion that they needed to join with the government and oppose the greedy public servants and their representatives. This was a con. It was a massive con, and many now see it for what it was. But as we faced into the collapse of the property market, rising unemployment rates, the collapse of private pension schemes, and the virtual decimation of pay in the private sector, the view of the public service found a very willing audience, because people had been crucified by the economic downturn and they wanted somebody to blame. And it was very easy to point their fingers at public servants who had job security, who had pensions, who had a relatively decent workplace. So instead of blaming the bankers, the right-wing government forces, it was very easy to blame the porter or the nurse or the doctor, because they had job security and a decent pension. So when the health service was on its knees and demand for public service was rising, along with the unemployment rate, we see the entry onto the scene of precarious work, and Zeynep referred to that as well. It's not new in Ireland, but previously our public service had always been a place where decent work was respected, where a job for life was not an alien concept. So I'd like to illustrate this, if I can, with just a very brief case study. A hospital in rural Ireland employing 35 cleaners, all on full-time permanent pensionable jobs. Because of the recruitment moratorium, they can't recruit any additional staff. Therefore, when staff retire or move on, or are out on maternity leave or long-term sick leave, they're not replaced. And so hospital management are left with no option but to contract out part of the service. They prepare a tender and they go out to the private market. The workers resist, but they are in a climate, as I described, of extreme hostility, created by the demonisation of public servants. So they threaten industrial action, but they know that without public support, they cannot win this battle. And reluctantly, they accept that some of the cleaning services will be contracted out because management simply can't recruit workers, and there's more work than they can handle. Now, we all know that cleanliness and infection control are greatly enhanced by the continuity of staff, and this is not possible in an outsourced environment. However, that's a very hard argument to make when you're fighting for jobs. The same recruitment moratorium is in operation throughout this hospital, and by now it's 2011. The cleaners have taken 2 pay cuts and are working additional hours for free. They are short-staffed constantly. Management have a new idea. The kitchen too is short-staffed, they say, so management offer the cleaners work in the kitchen. Similar rates of pay, but marginally more attractive work. The cleaners, of course, take this work, and this leaves the cleaning unsustainable because the staff are transferring into the kitchen. Therefore, the cleaning service has to be outsourced because the moratorium means there can be no recruitment. So another tender is created. The cleaners now work in the kitchen, and the cleaning in the hospital is done by an outsourced company. The cleaners, of course, are now kitchen staff, but the problems faced by retirement, maternity leave and long-term sick leave still exist. Now, management have another idea. They will offer the kitchen staff work as healthcare assistants. This is better work again, and the staff who take it will not be replaced. Before too long, the provision of directly employed kitchen services also becomes unsustainable, and therefore this too must now be privatised. I saw this happen in hospital after hospital after hospital. The government created the problem for which the private sector had a ready-made solution. This kept the unions out, and the economic downturn ensured a ready supply of cheap and willing labour for the private contractors. While the private hospitals competed for who could offer the best room, the best food package, public hospitals were being run into the ground. Waiting lists were growing, and those people who depended on the public service were being let down repeatedly. In 2013, the government, under a minister from the Irish Labour Party, if you can believe that, established the Office of Government Procurement in order to make outsourcing and privatisation more efficient and more importantly, quicker than it had been previously. And this happened all the while public servants were still being vilified and attacked in the media. And the Public Health Service was being derided at every turn. Nobody took account of the fact that in Ireland, no one is turned away from a public hospital. They take all comers, complex cases, unscheduled procedures, and chronic illnesses, unlike their counterparts in the private system, who can cherry pick and who perform only planned procedures. The private system deals with those who, by their very nature, are in higher socioeconomic groups. They deal with those who are statistically less likely to be suffering from complications and ill health that we all know is caused by poverty and deprivation, and of course, they appear more efficient in those circumstances. They have been given every advantage. So while the public system takes all comers and turns no one away, those who may be suffering from not just ill health, those who are suffering from the complications that result as a direct result of deprivation. The project of privatisation was one which was enthusiastically embraced by public servants themselves because they believed some of the myths in the media. They believed that their own system was unworkable. They believed that their own system was inefficient. And many of those groups and categories believed that while they might outsource the cleaning, they might outsource the catering, they might outsource the security, they weren't going to outsource them. And of course, we all know that those who stood by and watched the cleaning and the catering get systematically outsourced are the same people now, several years later, who have realised that privatisation is a juggernaut and it stops for nobody and it drives around nobody. It keeps going and it will knock down any group of workers standing in its way. As I said, healthcare is big business. There's plenty of money to be made, especially in a climate where the population have been led to believe that the public health service is actually bad for your health. It's hardly surprising that in Ireland today, almost 50% of the population have private health insurance. There are over 700,000 of us on waiting lists. That's 1 in every 6 people is on a waiting list in Ireland at the moment. We've an average of 500 people per night waiting on trolleys, and we have a growing private healthcare industry. In Ireland, we subsidise the health service, which has a budget of just over 14 billion. Now, you ask our government and they'll tell you that's among the highest in Europe, because it's not what you spend really, though, it's what you spend it on. But notwithstanding that 14 billion, we also subsidise, taxpayers subsidise the health service to the tune of another billion from out-of-pocket expenses and from a subsidy that we pay to people to encourage them to get private health insurance. So if I want to attend a GP in Ireland tomorrow, it will cost me €55, which I think is pretty unique in a country that would pride itself on having a public health service. We pay over €2 million a week for agency staff. That goes up to 5 million, that's for nurses. That goes up to €5 million if you add in other grade groups and categories. And so this was the ideology that we were fighting back in 2007 to 2009. Some of us named it at the time, and we were told that we were scaremongering. We pointed out that private healthcare provision rarely, if ever, represents good value for money, and we were told that we were anti-business and we were anti-competition and we needed to get with it and modernise, and that we were the reason that the health service was underperforming. And if you want to see this in action, you only have to look at a service like the Home Help Service. So Home Help Service started as a good neighbour service. A local woman might look in on an elderly person. It developed into a community-based service. The Home Helps working in Ireland today, if they are directly employed, cost the state about €16 an hour, all in. That includes everything. That includes holiday pay, sick pay, pension entitlements, everything. If you go to one of the global multinational corporations, they will charge anything up to €40 per hour for the same service. So when the Home Helps were fighting against the reduction in service on behalf of their clients, they said, no, we won't visit for less than half an hour. The private healthcare providers came in with their efficient, cost-effective model, and they pushed the price of home care from €16 an hour up to €40 plus per hour. They offer a 15-minute call. For an elderly person, 15 minutes to wash them, dress them, toilet them, make them comfortable, never mind have a chat or make a cup of tea. They offer a 15-minute service because that's how efficient they are. And when the Home Helps fought against that, they were told to get modern, get with it, and stop behaving like they were in the 16th century. Now, I've left the world of trade unionism for the world of full-time political activity, but I most definitely have not left the fight against privatisation. So those who colluded in running down the public service, they have won many, many battles, but they can't win the war. They simply can't. We cannot allow that to happen. And as I listen to the presentations here today, it's very, very clear. Big business and privatised companies have written the blueprint for how to come in and privatise our health service. It is up to us to write the blueprint for how we are going to resist that. Where am I going?
Many thanks. Grazie infinite a
Thank you very much, Louise O'Reilly, because you told us a chilling story. We heard about Turkey and about Ireland, and they were outlined with such precise figures and chilling figures, I must say. Each case is unique, yet there are common elements. As Louise was rightly saying, many battles have been won, but I think this paradigm, this war paradigm, it is indeed a war that we're fighting, the demonization of the public system and public officials in Ireland. We have witnessed the destruction of the public system and the persecution of thousands of public officials who refuse to work in a country which is not respecting human rights and which is merely aiming at different targets. This war metaphor is not a metaphor anymore, unfortunately. It is the reality. Jeanne was also mentioning something which I like to stress very much, and it is this because it is a model that affects all countries, and this idea of PPPs, this idea that nothing can be done without a public entity being involved in the system, deforming it. And I'd like to go back to sustainable development goals, because this is one of the global partnerships, is the way that the presence of multinationals, private multinational, are included within development goals. So these are very, very big issues, and I'm afraid that this battle is going to last very long. But as Jean was saying, health is a convergence area. It is the area where healthcare workers, doctors, academics, students can converge. And possibly a growing group of activists, of people. It's clear from what we've heard about Turkey, about Belgium, France and Italy this morning, it's clear that we have lost a lot. We have lost time, we have lost in terms of political culture, we have lost our vision, and we have lost, unfortunately, lives. But maybe we haven't lost everything, but if we continue in this way, we will lose the final battle. So this is the battle that we want to fight for a new Europe, for a Europe which is not the Europe of austerity of banks, but the Europe of rights. We have globalized economy, now we want to globalize rights. Otherwise, there is no hope for the future. But I'd like to finish off with on this example that Louise gave us, 15 minutes devoted to elderly people. 15 minutes is what Bocconi University is proposing around Italy right now. Bocconi professors are educating healthcare professionals, are trying to convince them that 15 minutes are maximum to be devoted to patients. In this cost-benefit approach, which means that we're killing assistance, that we're killing rights. Health is a test field. If something can be achieved in healthcare policy, then you can be sure that this is going to work in other areas as well. We've seen this in Italy with vaccines, which has nothing to do with vaccines activity, but efficiency, but effectiveness, but about politics. So these are this is something so events like these ones are very important, because we need mobilization in all around Europe, and we are lagging behind in Italy. But we also need to act in Geneva, for instance, because the World Health Organization has abdicated its role and has entrusted the private market with some sort of surrogate financial responsibility, but it is, as Louise was saying, it is the government who are to blame, who decided to abdicate to the private market. So there is public accountability, responsibility. The private market are doing what they are allowed to do by the public sector.